Welcome back to Sourdough for Dummies. This is the 5th video in the series. This one's going to go over how to fold the dough and shape your loaves right before we bake them. If you haven't watched the other videos in the series, I suggest you go back as this is step by step, so you're going to need to watch them for the rest of this to make sense. What you're going to need for this step is some salt, as well as a tablespoon, your mixing spoon, a small bowl like what you see here, as well as just a standard Pyrex mixing cup. So for our first step, we're going to need a 1/4 cup of warm or hot tap water, and then you're going to add a tablespoon of salt into that. What you're going to do once you add that together is you're going to get your mixing spoon and try to blend this all up. You want to get like a saltwater mix here, so I kind of go back and forth in different directions. You're trying to get as much salt as possible to dissolve into that warm water, that hot water. So you want to get it all mixed together really well. So the next step is you're going to take your dough that's been resting from the previous video, either 4 hours at room temperature or overnight in the fridge. You're going to peel it away from the sides of the bowl, and then you're going to pour over that salt water mix that we just made right into that bowl like you see here. So next, your goal is to blend that salt water that you just poured in there with the dough. I kind of roll it all around, I stretch it out, I fold it in half, I dig my fingers in. I'm trying to get all that salt water mixed into the dough. I don't want a puddle of water in the bottom of the bowl. I want to mix it all together so the bread dough takes on all that salt water. So as you see here, when I pick up the dough, it's very wet, very loose, but I don't have any salt water puddle in the bottom of the bowl. It's all mixed in pretty well. So after I have my dough and my salt water mixed together, I'm going to start stretching and folding the dough. So you'll see here, I grab the top, I stretch it out, fold it over itself. There's the first fold. Turn it 90 degrees, stretch it out, fold again. Then I go for a third fold as well, turn again, stretch, and fold. And then you're going to turn it one last time, the fourth time, and stretch and fold it out again. So essentially you folded all the corners of the bread up onto itself. After I complete those 4 folds, I roll the dough ball over and kind of rest it in the bowl here so it doesn't unfold while it rests. So after I completed my fold, I cover over my bowl with a towel and just leave it sit here loose at room temperature, and I'm going to come back to this in 30 minutes. So after I cover that up, I'm going to repeat the process for my second batch. I'm going to take this time to talk about how many folds we need. So in the first bowl, I demonstrated 1 set of folds. We're going to need a total of 6 sets of folds, all separated by a ½ hour in between of rest. So how I typically do it is I set phone alarms for ½ hour, 1 hour, 1½ hours, 2 hours, and 2½ hours. So that's 5 more times in addition to the 1 fold that I do here on video to get me to my 6 sets of folds. Basically every time my phone alarm goes off, I come up, I uncover the bowl, I do my 4 folds from all different directions, and then I recover the bowl, and then I walk away from it till the next phone alarm goes off. So I'm going to show you some of the next folds that I have to do on the bread. When you start off, your dough is very wet, very loose, and as you keep folding this, it's going to form up more, it's going to become more firm, more smooth as you go here. So this, I believe, is my second fold. Same process as before, stretch and fold, turn 90 degrees each time. Like I said, you're going to try to get all 4 corners of your dough pulled up and then folded over themselves like you can see here. After I finish each set of folds, again I cover it with a dish towel and let it rest for 30 minutes. Like I said before, early on your dough is going to be very wet and loose. Here's 2 of my later folds where you'll see the dough is a lot more smooth, a lot more firm, holds its shape. You still do the same fold process, still cover it up, and still give it its 30 minutes in between each set of folds. After the 6th and final set of folds, you're going to let the dough rest for an hour in the bowl. After that hour passes, you're going to need your flour and your bench scraper. You're going to need to pick a work surface or a cutting board and spread out a thin layer of flour. Then we're going to take our dough and carefully get it out of our bowl. We're going to peel it off of the sides there. Try not to deflate your dough. Try to be careful with it and peel it out and lay it into that surface that you prepared. Then we're going to take our bench scraper and divide our dough ball roughly in half. It doesn't have to be exact, but just take your best shot at it. You're going to put some flour on your hands and we're going to shape our loaf. This is a little bit hard to explain, but basically think about it as folding the front faces of the dough back onto the back. You're trying to get like a tight skin or a tight surface or surface tension on the loaf. So you'll see here I keep rolling it backwards into the back there. I'm trying to kind of stretch the face of the dough and get it tight. Like I said, it's a little hard to explain, but it'll make sense when you do it a couple times. You're trying to tighten up the dough ball and make it into a nice round like what you see here. Try not to be too rough with it or you're going to pop all the air bubbles inside of it and deflate the dough. You can see some of these little blisters and air bubbles that are forming. That's perfect. That's what you want. After you form the dough, you're going to lay it down on the work surface and drop it in some flour like you see here. So I've read about this step a couple different places. Some people flour up the bench scraper and use that to slide under and form the surface tension. I always have a rough time with that, so I just do it by hand. I flour up my hands, and like I said, I roll it back onto itself and try to get some surface tension and try to get the face of that dough a little tight. So you're going to see me repeat the process with my second batch. You're going to try to be gentle and not deflate your dough. You're going to divide it into two pieces, and then you're going to form up your loaves and try to get the face tight and place it down in flour on the work surface. So let's take a look at the results of our first shaping here. You're going to see some of the dough balls have blisters and air pockets. That's great. Some are a little higher than the others. That's all right. You just want to look for something close to this. After the first shaping, you're going to let the dough rest for 30 minutes. Next, you're going to get out your proofing basket like what you see here. If you don't have one of these, now's the time for your substitute container. You're going to put your liner in it, or you're going to put a towel or a linen towel in there if you're just using a substitute. And you're going to try to flour up all the sides of this liner or the towel that you're using very well. So I'm going to pick up some of the waste flour that I have here, throw it in the liner, and rub it in really well. Try to get the flour into the liner itself or into whatever fabric you're going to use to line your container. I take a little extra here and I put it on. I just want to get flour on all the surfaces and rub it in there so that the dough isn't going to stick to it. So you're going to see me repeat the process here with the rest of my proofing baskets. And again, I'm just trying to get flour on all those liner surfaces and work it into that really well. Alright, so after that first shaping, rest for 30 minutes and my proofing basket's ready to go and floured up. I'm going to grab my first dough ball and do a final shape. I just kind of grab the edges and pull them up. And it's almost like folding, but again, you want to be gentle. You don't want to pop the bubbles that are in the dough and deflate it. I kind of pinch it shut here, tuck it in, and then I'm going to roll the dough ball over and then place it in the proofing basket. Then I'm going to repeat the process for all the remaining loaves that I have out on my counter here. After everything is in the proofing baskets, you have two options. If you're going to make bread right away, you can cover it with dish towels and leave it out at room temperature and let it rise for 4 hours. It was late at night, so the other option is you can cover it with plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator overnight or somewhere around 12 or 13 hours at this stage. Alright, that's it for today's video on folding and shaping loaves. Thanks for watching, guys. We have one more video to go for making bread, and that's going to be how to bake your loaves. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments, and I'll try to help you out. See you soon.